YouTube fellow community, mamas and the papas fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we're here today to talk about the Mamas and the Papas album, Deliver. The Mamas and the Papas Deliver. Released in February of 1967, recorded throughout the end of 1966, it hit number 2 on the charts, and spawned several really big singles. Overall, as an album, it might be one of their more, I hate to use the word forgotten albums, but at this point, you know, some of the singles on here are more standout than other songs, whereas their first couple of albums, almost every song would have been a single, and the dedication and the effort and the time and everything else that went into the making of the album was a little bit more top-notch. By this point, drugs and alcohol and relationships were all kind of hurting the band big time in terms of their creativity and, you know, getting to work in the studio and putting a good focus on it. But that said, there's some really nice parts of this album, and overall, it's a really interesting album. It's definitely a bit different from what they normally have done prior to this. The big singles on here, of course, Dedicated to the One I Love hit number 2, Creek Alley hit number 5, and Look Through My Window hit number 24. That was actually the first single from the album, which came out in September of '66, so quite a number of months beforehand, or not that many, it's like 3 or 4. Which is weird because then after that, Words of Love came out as a single, which was from their album before this, so who knows. And then Dedicated came out in February of '67, same month as this, and Creek Alley came out in April of '67. So some really big songs came out around this time. And it includes the smash hit, Dedicated to the One I Love. This is a mono copy, original mono copy. By the time Creek Alley did come out as a single, the band was really falling apart more. I mean, John, unfortunately, was getting more involved in drugs and alcohol, and Denny was drinking a lot, trying to drink away Michelle. And the whole aspect of the band wasn't really a unit anymore. Mama Cass was starting to feel like, you know, I can go do this on my own. I think I can do this by myself. And Michelle had just come back to the band after being fired. So, I mean, the whole thing was shaky at this point. The stability that was there on the first couple of albums just isn't there on this one. And it kind of hurts it. It kind of shows that it's not the group firing on all cylinders. Mama Cass was pregnant at the time that they were doing this album. She kept the whole thing a secret, and so that's why they called it Deliver, because she was going to deliver a baby. So they said, Mamas and the Papas Deliver. But she was also looking out for herself at this point. She realized that, like, because she had a kid now, she meant to do things differently to make sure that her and her kid were going to be okay. And so she really did start to focus on becoming a solo artist, and in a couple of years she would, and she'd have a really good solo career. But, I mean, when they get together and really put their efforts in, those moments really show on this album for sure. And, yeah. So, Dedicated to the One I Love starts off this album, and I found it interesting that Michelle gets the first lead on this album after being kicked out of the band and then welcomed back. You know, like, this is cool that she's got sort of her, like, welcome back moment, which I think is great. She gets to open it up, but her voice is so beautiful and articulate and soft, and it transitions so well to the rest of the band coming in and the rest of the vocals coming in throughout the rest of the track. So this is a song in particular that shows off the dynamics of the group really well, because they can be really soft and really kind of gentle and, you know, vulnerable with their, you know, kind of wearing their heart on their sleeve with the way they would sing something, but then be really raucous and jovial and exciting all in the same track. I mean, this is a song that starts off almost on a whisper and then kind of builds up to a lot of really loud moments. And it goes through several different key changes. It's a really interesting song, and the arrangement is just fantastic. You know, it's not a song they wrote, but the arrangement that they've done here is so effective. That's why it stands the test of time. It's just an amazing track. It's catchy, it's got some great hooks to it, and it really does show them firing on all cylinders. It's an excellent way to start off the album, for sure. It's just pure pop magic. It's one of those songs that will always be an interesting listen. Truly a wonderful and catchy song in their catalog. My Girl, the Smokey Robinson song that, you know, I wrote for the Temptations. This is what I love about the Mamas and the Papas. When they cover a song, they make it their own, and they do a really good job with taking something and kind of making it maybe a bit more chill than it was originally intended. So with Denny on lead, it just becomes a Mamas and Papas song. It's unreal how it instantly transforms from being this awesome Motown track to the Mamas and the Papas. Very well done. To the point where it sounds original, because they kind of own the song. They own the whole experience here. Cass's vocals near the end, when she's duetting with Denny, are absolutely awesome. They're such a welcome addition. The background vocals on this thing are just heaven sent. Excellent job on this one. Creek Alley, I mean, one of the most famous songs for sure. It's the story of how the group came together from, the New Journeymen and the Mugwumps, and how they all broke up and kind of formed different groups from there, including the Mamas and the Papas, the Birds, the Lovin' Spoonful. I mean, all these people knew each other from the folky scene in New York and all over the place. And it's just a great story song. It's one of those, it's fun to listen to because you can hear the development of a band over one track, which I think is really cool to sing about your own history. I wish more bands would do that, because it just kind of adds a little bit of special flavor of you get to sing along to this, but we're singing about ourselves, not in a romantic way, but just how we came to be. I think that's such a fascinating way to document yourself as a group. Instead of having to write an autobiography, here's a song of everything we did. I think that's really cool. But it's in that folk tradition of just storytelling and songwriting. Absolutely love that song. It's fun, it's dancey, it's catchy. There's a lot of repeated refrains. Again, it's the group firing on all cylinders. Sing for Your Supper. This one for me is like Mama Cass's words of love for this album. I love her vocals on this one. It's got that vaudeville piano. Her voice is so smooth and powerful. Absolutely amazing song. She really just nails that whole sing for your supper mentality of if you're gonna do it, you're gonna really own it. And she does a great job with that one. Twist and Shout. Again, I love this sort of chill version of it. It's such a knockout of a cover. This one for me is the Do You Want to Dance of this album. It's got that same sort of vibe. And the organ solo is very Dylan-esque. It has a really pretty ending. It's just a super characteristic Mamas and the Papas feel. That good time kind of feel. Free Advice. This is an interesting song. This, for me, sounds exactly like Straight Shooter off the first album? Second album? I can't remember. Sounds like Straight Shooter. And it even repeats several lyrical phrases from that song. And then, if you know what I mean, woo, that stuff is all repeated. So I guess if it worked once, why not try it again? But, so in a way it kind of sounds like a watered down version of that song, but it's still a cool song. It still rocks and rolls. I mean, it's a great track. Side B, Look Through My Window. The drama and the tension on this track are balanced against optimism and reflection so well. And again, storytelling comes into play. The dynamics that help the song along and the changes that the song goes through are just fascinating. So, I mean, I guess I can kind of see why I didn't chart any higher, because it's kind of an interesting song in its construction, let alone the musical element of it. But it's such a well-constructed pop song, if you ask me, because there's enough changes on the song to justify your ear never getting tired of it, because not a whole lot of it is constantly repeated. There's enough changes there to be like, oh wow, it keeps going. So I don't know, maybe that's the reason why. I mean, it wasn't super hooky, so your ears weren't glued to it constantly. But I don't know, I think if you heard enough pop songs over time, hearing something like this would be enough for your ears to catch on to it. So what do I know? But hit number 24. Boys and Girls Together. This was a trippy cut. A little more subtle here. Michelle on taking the lead. The horn arrangements are cool. It doesn't really go anywhere per se, but it's still interesting. Not my favorite song on the album. I read somewhere that Michelle Phillips, this is her favorite album from the group. So again, what do I know? But not my favorite track, but I do appreciate its sort of simpleness to it. It almost feels like this is their Smiley Smile moment. Because it's a little more stripped back, a little more bare, not as complicated as they're sort of known for. Which does help sort of make it interesting. String Man, not my favorite song on the album. It's interesting, but it's not super catchy, and it kind of feels like a filler song for me. It just doesn't do much. It just feels like they're kind of pulling at strings here. There we go. I threw a pun in. I can end the video now. Frustration. This is a groovy instrumental with a cool harpsichord that just works the whole track on its own. It would have been cool to hear some lyrics on this. I think it could have been a better song with some words. Um, I mean, it's certainly pretty enough on its own that it kind of stands up, for what it is. And it definitely has that sort of 60s flavor. It's got that slight, I use that word slight heavily, slight bossa nova influence, maybe some, Brazil 66 kind of stuff going on here, but not a lot. But it's an interesting track on its own. Did you ever want to cry? Mama Cass takes center stage on this one, and I like the really solid but kind of chill delivery in her voice. So it's a little more relaxed, but she's, again, really articulate with her delivery. Denny adds some equally chill vocals on this as well. It's not super exciting, again, but I really dig it. I like the fade out with Cass sort of trailing it out as it goes along. I think that's pretty cool. And then the album ends with John's music box, which is exactly what it is. It sounds like a music box. It's dreamy and, sort of childlike, and it's a music box. And then the album's over. So, I mean, a lot of the crew on here is the Wrecking Crew. You got Hal Blaine, Larry Knechtel, P.F. Sloan is on here, which is interesting. I think, of course, John Phillips plays guitar in this thing, too. But the back just has their astrological charts with their birthday. So John was born August 30th, so he's a Virgo. Michelle is June 4th, she's Gemini. Denny is November 29th. He's Sagittarius, and Cass was September 19th, so she's a Virgo. So let's see the songs at the bottom. It's just a nice little collage up there of them. I think the album cover is great. All of them in the pool together hanging out, and there's a hole in John's hat. They're all getting water out of that. I think it's a great picture. And this is the old Dunhill label here. Let me get a better lineup of the label. Again, this is a mono copy. Side 2. So yeah, I enjoy this album. It's not one that I play a lot. It doesn't come out that often, even though there's some really heavy hitters on here and a hell of a lot of interesting moments. Overall, I do feel like it's a weaker album in their discography. I'm not saying it's bad at all. If I was giving it a score, which I always do, you've seen these videos, I'd probably give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10, maybe a 6. It doesn't feel as strong as the other albums they've made at that point. And this definitely was the beginning of the end for the band. I mean, at this point, they would go on to start organizing the Monterey Pop Festival, so that took up most of their time. Unfortunately, John started going downhill with drugs around this time. Mama Cass was really focusing on getting that solo career taken off, so they were splintering. And it was starting to show. And that Monterey Pop Festival apparently was their last concert, which I didn't know about that. But so 67 was kind of the beginning of the end. They would put out another album after this, another 2 albums. But they put out a couple albums after this. But this was sort of the beginning of the end, I'd say, for the guys and gals. But not a bad album. Like, I can't stress that enough. It's not their best, but it's not bad. There's moments on it here that just sound a little weaker, but it's kind of interesting to hear those moments, to hear, oh, what would the Mamas and Papas sound like if they didn't try so hard? Like, it's that kind of thing. So, not bad. I'm going to go with a 6 on this thing, maybe a 7, depending on what mood I'm in. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, because it's a very interesting album, and that's it. My name is Giggens. This has been the Mamas and the Papas Deliver, 1967, and thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.